Welcome back to the Deep End. We're really glad you're here with us. Tonight we are going to do something just a little bit different.
A lot different, actually.
Yeah, that's fair. Usually we're dissecting the latest tech trends or unearthing some forgotten history, but
Yeah.
tonight I want you to picture us dialing down the lights.
Setting the mood.
Right.
Yeah.
Just picture sitting in a dimly lit room, maybe pouring a warm beverage or something stronger depending on how your week is going, and just settling in for what feels like a late-night philosophical chat.
That is the perfect way to frame it. You know those conversations you have at like 2 in the morning where you totally solve the problems of the universe?
Oh, absolutely.
But then you wake up the next day and you can't quite remember the details. You just remember the feeling of having your mind completely blown.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That is the exact vibe we are chasing today. Except we actually have the receipts this time.
We do.
We have the transcript. We aren't just rambling into the void. We're following a map. But before we slip entirely into that void, I need to handle a tiny bit of housekeeping.
The mandatory disclaimer.
The mandatory disclaimer, just so we're being responsible guides on this journey. So here it is. This podcast will be distributed free of charge on all major platforms for educational purposes.
Perfect.
Yeah, we are here to learn, to explore, and to share. We are not trying to tell you how to live your life, but we are offering some really fascinating perspectives on what life actually is.
And what we are sharing today is heavy. I mean, in the best possible way, but it's dense, it's rich, and it's honestly a little bit spooky.
It is spooky. We are cracking open the archives again. Specifically, we are diving into the early sessions, Book 9 of the Seth Material.
Yes.
And we are focusing entirely on one very specific entry, which is session 427.
And just to ground us in time and space before things get too cosmic, the date of record here is August 7th, 1968.
1968. I mean, what a year.
Right.
You've got massive political upheaval. The counterculture is in full swing.
Right.
But we aren't out on the streets of Chicago or Paris for this. We are in Elmira, New York.
Just a small second-floor apartment.
Right, the apartment of Jane Roberts and her husband, Rob. And the atmosphere in that room was, well, it was sticky.
Literally sticky. The notes for this session go out of their way to describe a very hot, incredibly humid Wednesday evening.
Ugh, you could almost feel it.
You really can. That heavy, wet heat that just sits right on your chest, the kind where the air feels like soup. And Jane, the medium, was reportedly really bothered by the heat all day long.
Which honestly makes what happens next even more impressive to me. She pushes through all that physical discomfort. She goes into her trance state, and the entity known as Seth comes through.
And he does not come through with small talk.
Yeah.
He doesn't complain about the humidity or talk about the weather. He comes right through with an origin story.
And we don't mean an origin story like how I started my business or how I met your mother.
No, this is the origin story of the universe.
Of consciousness itself.
It is the ultimate deep dive.
And the hook here, the thing that really just grabbed me by the shirt collar when I was reading through this, is that this isn't a physics lecture.
Not at all.
It's not about atoms smashing together or math equations or the cooling of primordial gases. It's about emotion.
It's about agony.
Yes.
Agony.
A desperate, clawing need to create.
It totally reframes the Big Bang. Not as this random explosion of matter, but as an explosion of psychological relief.
Oh, man, just wait until we get to the part about the insomnia of God. That gave me actual chills.
It's wild.
So let's not waste any more time on the preamble. Let's unpack this thing.
Let's do it.
Okay, so Seth opens the session after a very brief good evening, which is polite, considering how hot it was, with a statement that essentially rewrites the entire foundation of physics.
He just drops it right in their laps.
He really does. I'm going to quote this exactly because this is the bedrock for everything we are going to talk about today. He says, "Desire, wish, and expectation rule all actions and are the basis for all realities."
Boom. Right out of the gate.
No easing in whatsoever.
None. But it's such a beautifully simple sentence. If you really stop and think about it, desire, wish, and expectation rule all actions.
It completely flips the materialist worldview right on its head.
It really does. Because usually, especially in the Western world, we are taught that reality is just stuff. It's matter, hard objects, rocks, water, carbon.
Right.
And then somehow, magically, after billions of years of random evolution, this stuff develops a brain. And that brain starts having feelings like desire or expectation.
Exactly. The standard model says matter comes first, feelings come second.
But Seth is saying, no, you have it completely backwards. The feelings come first.
The desire.
The desire, the wish, the expectation that is the fundamental building block Matter is just the result of that desire. It's the end product, not the beginning.
It's so fascinating because it validates something I think we all sort of secretly feel but are constantly told is irrational.
What do you mean?
Well, we all have these weird intuitions that our mindset literally shapes our day. Like, if you expect your day to go badly, if you wake up dreading it, it almost always goes badly.
Oh, or the classic toast falling butter side down phenomenon.
Yes, exactly. If expectation rules reality, then my sheer panic about the butter hitting the floor is actually magnetizing the butter to the floor.
In a very real, literal sense, according to this session, yes, you are collapsing the probability wave with your expectation.
That is wild.
But Seth takes this principle, the idea that desire creates reality, and he applies it to the biggest canvas possible, to the creator itself, to all that is.
Right, all that is,
Yeah.
which is Seth's term for God or the source or the universe.
Yeah, he generally avoids the word God because it just comes with so much heavy religious baggage. You say God, and people immediately picture a guy with a white beard sitting on a cloud passing judgment.
A very human figure.
Exactly. But all that is implies a gestalt, this massive, incomprehensible collection of consciousness that includes literally everything.
So Seth takes us back, way, way back, before the beginning.
Before stars, before atoms, before time.
Right, he calls it an indescribably distant past, even though he also reminds us that time is an illusion, so past is really just a metaphor for our human brains to process it.
But for the sake of the story, we'll go with past.
Sure, so in this state, all that is existed, but it existed in a state of non-being.
Now, this is a really tricky concept. How
Yeah.
can something exist and have non-being at the exact same time? It sounds like a total paradox.
It really tripped me up. I had to read that specific paragraph like 3 times.
The best way to think about it is like a writer with a brilliant novel in their head. The novel exists, right?
Sure, it's in their mind.
Exactly. The characters are there. They are talking to each other. The plot is twisting and turning. It is vivid and real to the writer, but it's not written.
It hasn't been expressed on paper.
Right. So in the physical world, the book is in a state of non-being.
Okay, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
So all that was this massive infinite reservoir of potential, a library of books that just hadn't been written yet.
Precisely.
Mm.
But here's where it gets dark. And this is the part that really sets this material apart from your standard love and light spirituality, where everything is just pure, blissful energy.
The agony.
Yes. Seth describes this state of pent-up potential as agony.
That word appears multiple times in the transcript. Agony. It's such a visceral, painful word.
He says, and this is a quote, "The agony itself and the stupendous desire to create represented its proof of its own reality."
Wow. That is chilling. It implies that at the very root of our existence, there was suffering.
But not suffering like I stubbed my toe.
No, suffering like a contained explosion, like a pressure cooker about to give way.
A contracted yearning. Just imagine having the capacity to create an infinite universe. You can create love, color, sound, light, gravity, and you have absolutely no way to let it out.
You're a mute singer with the most beautiful song in the world just stuck in your throat.
That is exactly it. And that pressure, it's actually incredibly relatable, even on our much smaller human scale.
It really is. I mean,
Yeah.
you know that feeling when you have this amazing idea or you desperately need to say something to someone like a confession or an I love you, and you just hold it in.
It physically hurts.
It does. You feel tight in your chest. You feel anxious. You feel like you're going to crawl out of your skin.
And that right there is the fractal nature of reality. We feel that exact physical tightness because all that is felt at first.
We're made of the same stuff.
We are the same stuff. We are driven by that same desire, that same unbearable pressure to express what's inside us.
So the creation of the universe wasn't this calm, calculated engineering project.
Far from it.
It wasn't God sitting down at a drafting table with a blueprint, sipping coffee, saying, let there be light, and then taking a union break.
Not at all. According to Seth, it was a desperate, clawing need just to exist. It was a violent release of pressure. It was survival.
Because all that had to create, or else what? What was the alternative if it didn't?
Or else it would have gone completely insane.
Whoa. Okay, let's pin that for a second, because we are definitely going to get to the insanity of God.
We have to.
But first, I want to talk about the dreaming phase. Because this wasn't an instantaneous thing, right? It wasn't just a snap of the fingers and boom, the universe is here.
Right, there was a whole process to it. Seth describes it as all that is dreaming.
He calls them nebulous dreams.
At first, yes. They were just vague shapes, fluctuating possibilities, kind of like when you're staring at the clouds and you see a dragon and then it shifts into a car.
Right.
But because all that is so infinitely powerful, even its idle daydreams have immense vitality. They have weight and energy.
It's like when you're half asleep in bed and the dream starts to feel incredibly real, but you can still vaguely hear the traffic outside your window. You are
Yeah.
straddling two different worlds.
Exactly. But as time went on again, time being a metaphor here, the dreams got stronger. Seth says the dreams became recognizable one from the other.
They started to gain distinct details.
And all that is actually fell in love with them.
Grew to love that which was not as yet created from himself. That is actually a really beautiful concept.
It's gorgeous. It's the ultimate artist falling madly in love with the painting before the canvas is even primed. But then a massive problem arose.
The cosmic dilemma.
The characters woke up.
This is the part that blows my mind. The characters inside the dream realized they were there.
Essentially, yes. Seth explains that these potential individuals had consciousness before the beginning. They were still trapped inside the mind of all that is, but they started thinking for themselves.
Just trying to imagine that. You are the creator. You're trying to contain this energy. You're dreaming up these little people and worlds. And suddenly, inside your own head, they start banging on the walls.
We start shouting.
Hey, let us out. We want to be real. We want to make our own choices.
It sounds a little funny when we say it like that, but think about the psychological horror of that implication. It is schizophrenia on a cosmic scale.
Having infinite voices in your head.
Voices that are entirely distinct from your own identity, clamoring for independence.
Seth says they clamored to be released into actuality.
And that is the terrifying dilemma. All that is saw an absolute infinity of probable, conscious individuals. He saw all their possible futures, their joys, their tragedies.
But they were entirely locked inside him.
So he had a choice to make. Two choices, really. And neither one was easy or painless.
Okay, laid him out. Choice A.
Choice A. Keep them inside. Keep them as dreams. Keep them safe, but keep them completely contained and controlled.
And the result of choice A.
Complete, total insanity. Seth is unflinchingly clear on this point. He says, all that is in ways that cannot be understood would have faced insanity, and there would have been literally a reality without reason and a universe run wild.
The universe run wild. That's such a terrifying image. The creator losing his mind because the sheer pressure of his own creativity was just too vast to contain.
It is the ultimate archetype of the mad genius taken to its absolute limit. If you possess infinite energy and you have nowhere to direct it, it will eventually consume you.
Okay, so choice A is off the table unless we want a chaotic, insane reality, which, depending on the day, maybe we have.
Right.
But what is choice B?
Choice B is creation. It's the release. Give them actuality. Give them a physical universe. But, and this is the massive cosmic kicker to do that, all that is had to lose a part of himself.
Lose a part of himself. How does the infinite lose something?
Well, Seth puts the word lose in quotes in the transcript, but the underlying meaning is very clear. As long as those individuals were just dreams, they were fully under his control. They were him.
Right.
But to make them real, to make them actual, he had to let go of that control. He had to grant them total autonomy. He had to essentially separate them from the source.
It's the ultimate parental sacrifice.
It is exactly that. It's the parent realizing the child eventually has to leave the house. If you keep your kid locked in the basement forever to protect them, you ruin them and you ruin yourself.
You have to let them walk out the door.
You have to let them go, even knowing they might fall, even knowing they might reject you, even knowing they're going to make terrible mistakes.
So the act of creation, the actual Big Bang, was a sacrifice. It was an act of agonizing letting go.
It was a massive liberation. Seth describes the moment perfectly. The psychic energy exploded in a flash of creation.
And that explosion wasn't just, superheated plasma expanding into a void. It was infinite consciousness breaking out of prison. It was the doors blowing wide open.
Precisely. And that is exactly why Seth says that we, you, me, the person listening right now, we all have the memory of that primal agony buried deep, deep inside us.
Okay, expand on that. Because I definitely don't intellectually recall being part of a cosmic explosion.
No, your conscious mind doesn't recall it, but your psychological framework carries the signature of it. Because we are the literal fragments of that original bursting consciousness.
We are the stuff that was screaming to be let out.
Exactly. So deeply embedded in our cellular and psychological makeup is this innate knowledge that true creation only comes from a place of intense pressure and subsequent release.
This circles right back to what we were talking about earlier with our own daily human creativity.
Yes. Seth says, you create for the same reason. Whether you are painting a picture, write a novel, coding software, building a business, or honestly, even just cooking a really good meal, you are reenacting that exact cosmic drama.
You are taking something that is in a state of non-being inside your head, just an idea, an urge, and you are fighting to make it actual.
And if you don't do it, if you just sit on the couch and ignore it,
You suffer.
you feel that contracted yearning. You feel blocked.
That is so profoundly validating. I mean, think about how many times we beat ourselves up for feeling restless or anxious when we aren't being productive. We just assume there's something broken in us.
We medicate it, we try to ignore it, we scroll on our phones to distract ourselves from that tight feeling.
But this paradigm suggests that the restlessness isn't a flaw at all. It's actually our divine nature. It's the engine of the entire universe just revving inside our chests.
We are literally built to create. We are structurally designed to exteriorize our dreams. If we bottle them up indefinitely, we start to experience a micro version of that exact cosmic insanity.
We get depressed. We get deeply neurotic.
We get stuck.
It really puts a whole new spin on the phrase pent-up energy. It is quite literally the energy of creation trying to kick the door down to get out.
It really does. It frames human creativity not as a cute hobby or a side hustle, but as a fundamental biological and spiritual necessity.
Okay, so we've gone from the agony of God to the Big Bang, which is a pretty high-level operatic view of things. It's very grand.
Very grand.
But one of the things I absolutely love about the Seth Material, and specifically how this particular session plays out, is how abruptly it pivots.
The pivot is so jarring, but in the best, most authentic way.
We are sitting here talking about the birth of the cosmos, the screaming void, the sacrifice of the creator, and then suddenly Seth just starts gossiping about high school buddies.
It is the classic Seth dynamic. He moves from the highest metaphysical concepts to the most incredibly mundane daily details without even taking a breath.
It's like he's saying, look, the exact same rules that birthed the spiral galaxies also apply to your neighbor Dave down the street.
Say much.
So let's set the scene for this bizarre transition. Rob, Jane's husband, is sitting there taking notes. He's scribbling furiously in the heat. Seth is speaking through Jane in this deep trance. And out of nowhere, Seth addresses Rob directly about his recent astral travels.
Right. Seth claims that Rob, while he was sound asleep in his bed in Elmira, was actually incredibly busy helping people out on the astral plane.
Working the night shift.
Working the night shift.
Yeah.
And Seth gets very, very specific with the details. He says, you have helped 2 people who were in school with you.
And he actually drops a name, well, a partial name that leads into a full name. He plays a little bit of a guessing game, almost like he's trying to prove a point to Rob.
Yeah, he says, 1, a short first name beginning with A or strong A sounds, and a last name having to do with water. And then he immediately corrects himself and just says, Dave Lake.
Dave Lake. I mean, you literally cannot get much more of a water name than Lake.
No, you can't. And Seth tells him, you have helped Dave Lake on an astral level during a recent illness of his.
Now, keep in mind, this is 1968. There is no Facebook. There's no LinkedIn. You cannot just casually Google Dave Lake Sarah PA to see what he's up to. Rob is just sitting there in his living room, sweating, writing this down. What is his reaction to this?
Well, Rob checks the facts and puts it in the notes later. He admits, I graduated from high school in Sayre, Pennsylvania in 1937 and believed Dave Lake do so a year later.
Okay, so Dave Lake is a real person. Verified existence.
Totally real person. But here is the massive kicker. Rob writes, I haven't seen Dave in well over a year and do not know if he's been sick.
So Rob has absolutely no conscious waking knowledge of any of this.
None whatsoever. As far as Rob the Waking Man is concerned, Dave Lake is just some guy he went to high school with 30 years ago and hasn't thought about since.
Wow.
But Seth is telling him that Rob the Dreaming Man is clocking in, traveling to Dave's bedside, and actively helping him heal from an illness.
It heavily implies that we are all leading double lives.
At least double, probably multiple.
I just love this idea so much. It's incredibly comforting, but honestly, it's also a little exhausting. It completely explains why I wake up so tired some mornings.
Right.
Sorry, boss. I can't come into work today. I was doing heavy rounds at the Astral Hospital all night. I was hoping a guy named Dave get over the flu.
I was pulling a double shift in the spirit realm. I need a personal day. But seriously, it perfectly reinforces the earlier metaphysical point. Consciousness is primary.
Matter is secondary.
Exactly. The waking physical world is just one single focus of our consciousness. When we go to sleep, we aren't just powering down the computer like a machine. We are just logging into a completely different server.
And we maintain actual relationships on that server. That's the wild part to me. You might have friends you haven't seen in physical reality in 20 years, but maybe you hang out with them every Tuesday night in the dream state.
It really dissolves the terrible loneliness of the physical world a bit, doesn't it? To think that we are vastly more connected than we ever realized during our waking hours. You're never actually alone. You're just not always aware of the company you're keeping.
It absolutely does. And Seth doesn't just drop this as a cool, spooky anecdote. He actually provides practical advice on how to do this intentionally.
Yeah.
He gives Rob a literal hack.
Yes, practical, actionable instruction.
He tells Rob, you should imagine yourself in your studio working as you fall to sleep. It will facilitate projection there for you.
Which is a very classic visualization technique.
But why the studio? Why working? Why didn't he say, imagine yourself relaxing on a beach in Hawaii?
Because for Rob, who was a dedicated artist, painting in his studio is his ultimate passion. It's an incredibly high-energy state. It's where his emotions and his desires are most deeply engaged.
Oh, circling back to the first rule.
Exactly. Desire rules all actions. By consciously focusing his mind on that specific creative act, that intense desire to paint right as he drifts off, he is building a bridge for his consciousness.
He's setting an intention.
He's telling his deeper self, we aren't just shutting down for 8 hours, we are intentionally shifting our focus to this specific location.
It's essentially like programming the GPS before you even back the car out of the driveway.
That's a perfect analogy. Instead of just passing out from exhaustion and letting your subconscious take the wheel randomly, you deliberately set the destination. I am going to this studio.
I am definitely going to try this tonight. I am going to, I don't know, the kitchen.
Maybe start with somewhere you actually do your best creative work. But the underlying principle is totally sound. Expectation rules reality. If you expect to go to the studio with intense desire, you go to the studio. If you expect to just black out and sleep, you just black out.
All right, so we have the cosmic origin of the universe. We have the astral high school reunion. But we really cannot ignore the physical reality of the session itself. We talked about the oppressive heat at the beginning of the episode.
The heat is honestly a supporting character in this story. It's almost the antagonist.
It is, and by the very end of the session, things get they get weird.
Weird is putting it mildly. It borders straight on paranormal horror. If this was a movie, this is the exact moment the background music would just drop out.
Okay, so Seth says goodnight. He says, my heartiest wishes to you both. It's his standard, polite sign-off.
And it is exactly 10:23 p.m. Jane comes out of her trance state. Now, usually she's physically tired, but she's totally fine. She might ask for a glass of water or want to smoke a cigarette.
But this time it's different.
Very different. She opens her mouth to speak to Rob, and absolutely nothing comes out.
Her voice is just gone.
Completely gone. She smiles at him. She tries to answer the questions he's asking her about how she feels, but she physically cannot produce a single sound.
Now, Rob, being the very pragmatic, grounded husband that he is, he just suggests she clear her throat. Just cough, Jane. Just clear it out.
Which she does. She makes a loud clearing noise. So her vocal cords clearly work. The mechanics are functioning. The physical hardware is perfectly fine.
But she can't speak words.
Right. The software is severely glitching.
And then what happens?
After struggling for a minute, she finally manages to whisper one single word. There.
There. Just like that.
It's just a whisper. There. Rob asks her to repeat it. He's leaning in closely, trying to understand what is happening to his wife. And then, according to his notes, she spoke the exact same word again, but this time loudly and rather explosively.
There.
Yes. And only then, immediately after that violent, explosive shout, did her voice finally return to completely normal.
That is, I mean, I have goosebumps, again, just describing the mechanics of that. What in the world is happening there? Why the word there? And why did it have to be an explosion?
Well, if we connect it back to the core theme of the entire session, it's actually remarkably perfectly consistent.
The explosion of creation. The Big Bang.
Exactly. Think about it. The entire 2-hour session was deeply focused on how all that is had to release unbearable pressure in a massive explosive flash in order to create physical reality. It was all about the agony of holding that immense energy in.
And Jane, serving as the biological medium, had just channeled this incredibly massive, heavy concept through her own nervous system.
It's exactly like the psychic energy of that concept got literally stuck in her throat.
Wow. She was physically embodying the the contracted yearning.
She really was. She was momentarily trapped in that agonizing state of non-being. She was unable to speak, unable to express her thoughts. She was mimicking the exact pre-Big Bang state of the universe.
And so she had to have her own micro-Big Bang.
That explosive there was her breaking the tension. She had to violently release the pressure to break the block and return her system to normality.
It just really drives home the idea that this material isn't just an intellectual exercise for them. It is physiological. She is running extraordinarily high voltage through a very fragile biological wire.
Absolutely. And the oppressive heat and humidity in the room probably didn't help the situation at all. The atmosphere was heavy. The channeled energy was incredibly heavy.
Yeah.
It all just culminated in that terrifying physical block and necessary release. It's a deeply visceral, real-time demonstration of the exact lecture she had just delivered.
It's a really stark reminder that exploring these deep dives into the unknown isn't always perfectly safe or comfortable. It takes a real physical toll. You aren't just reading a paperback book. You are actively interacting with raw energy.
It demands a complete surrender of control, just like all that has had to violently surrender control in order to create us in the first place.
Now, before we wrap up, there were a few other random odds and ends tucked into the end of the session too, right? Some minor predictions.
Yeah, Seth was just casually throwing out these little psychic breadcrumbs before he left. He mentioned a letter that would be arriving soon from California, from the West.
Distance to the west of you. I do not know its relative importance.
Which is such classic Seth.
Yeah.
He gives you the raw data, but flat out refuses to tell you if it actually matters. He's just like, hey, heads up, mail's coming, do with that what you will.
He also mentioned a turnabout in mundane affairs.
Right.
And then there was this really funny specific bit about the color sepia.
Oh, right. The ghost art critic. I absolutely loved this weird little detail.
It's so funny. So apparently a discarnate personality named Van Elver, who had come through Jane in a previous session weeks ago, had strongly suggested that Rob shouldn't use the color sepia too heavily in his paintings.
I just love that concept so much. You're channeling ancient spirits from beyond the veil. You're learning the hidden secrets of the cosmos. And the spirits are like, hey, Rob, easy on the brown paint, buddy. It creates a really muddy composition.
Everyone's an art critic, even the dead.
But Seth actually checks in on it for Rob. He scans the situation and says, I have nothing now on sepia, like the ghost has moved on from his critique.
It just adds this incredibly rich layer of texture to their lives. They were living day to day with these voices, these unseen influences, totally intertwined with their art, their friendships, their daily mail delivery.
It wasn't just a Sunday church thing they did for an hour. It was a 24/7 lived reality.
A reality where desire rules everything, and where paint choices actually matter to ghosts.
It's a wild way to live.
So, bringing it all back home to close this out, we have covered a massive amount of ground in this deep dive.
We really have.
We started with the foundational idea that feelings, our desires, wishes, and expectations are the actual engine of physics, that consciousness always precedes matter.
We examined the agony of God, the desperate, painful need to create in order to avoid utter insanity, the revelation that the entire universe is essentially a mechanism for psychological release.
We saw how that vast cosmic drama plays out every single day in our own lives, our inherent need to create, and our own inner insanity when we leave our ideas unexpressed.
We took a trip to the astral plane with Dave Lake and realized we might actually be working the night shift while our bodies sleep, deeply connecting with people we haven't seen in decades.
And we witnessed the harsh physical reality of channeling through Jane's terrifying voice loss, the genuine danger and the physical intensity of holding that much energy.
It is a breathtakingly comprehensive look at the creative process, spanning all the way from the divine to the human to the biological.
So, what is the ultimate takeaway for the listener who is, driving to work right now or folding their laundry or sitting in their own studio?
I honestly think the biggest takeaway here is permission.
Permission to do what?
Permission to just create. Permission to feel the urgency of your own ideas. If you feel a tight pressure inside you to do something, to make a piece of art, to start a project, to say something important to someone, do not ignore it.
Because it's not just anxiety.
Right. It's not just random stress. It is the universe literally trying to happen through you. It's the echo of that primal agony trying to find a release valve.
And if you don't let it out, if you keep it locked in the basement,
then you stay in the agony. You stay trapped in that contracted yearning. And that inevitably leads to a universe run wild inside your own head.
go release it, even if it's messy, even if it's incredibly imperfect.
especially if it's imperfect. Think about it. All that is had to completely let go of perfection to give us reality. The absolute second he released the dreams into actuality, they became autonomous, which inherently means they became messy and unpredictable.
But they became real.
Exactly. Real is always better than perfect. We have to be willing to do the exact same thing with our own creations.
I love that so much. Real is better than perfect.
Always.
Now, before we officially sign off, we need to give proper credit where credit is due. All of this incredible material comes directly from the Seth Material.
Specifically, we were pulling from the Early Sessions Book 9 today.
Published by the New Awareness Network. I cannot stress this enough. These books are dense, they are absolutely wild, and they are 100% worth your time. We were just two people chatting about it here. Books are the real deal.
If you want to go straight to the source and read this for yourself, visit sethcenter.com/the early sessions. You can find all the books right there.
Because we are barely skimming the surface on this show. Reading the full text of Session 427 is an entirely different experience. It's really the difference between hearing someone describe a dream and actually having the dream yourself.
It really is. It shifts something inside you.
So we want to leave you with this final, slightly unsettling thought. Just a little something to chew on while you stare up at the ceiling tonight in the dark.
We talked a lot about how all that is had to release his dreams to keep from going totally mad. And we talked about how we are fundamentally made in that exact image.
So the question for you is, if Seth is right, and your dreams and ideas are actively fighting inside you to become real, what happens to the ideas you refuse to release?
Do they just quietly fade away into nothing? Or do they stay down in the basement of your subconscious mind, banging loudly on the pipes, slowly driving you mad?
And perhaps more importantly, do they eventually find another entirely different way out?
Oh man, that is a genuinely scary thought.
Maybe that random accident you had, or that weird coincidence that ruined your day, was just an unreleased dream, violently forcing its way into physical reality because you simply refused to open the door for it.
So open the door, folks.
Open the door, let it out. Thank you so much for diving deep into the unknown with us tonight. We will see you in the next reality.
Good night, everyone.